What's up, everyone? Welcome to Fantasy Football Today, DFS. It's week 18. It's Meg. It's Mike. I can't believe we're at week 18. I think everybody says that on every show, but I legitimately can't believe it. And Grey Goose Hayes in the chat already says he can't believe it either. Meg, how you doing today?
Well, I do get very sad at the end of the football season because you know me, football only girl over here. So I get sad, but happy new year to all. And, let's make the most of it. We got a major information slate on our hands here. So let's make the most of it.
That's right. It's a 13-game slate, Mike. 6 in the early window, 7 in the afternoon window. I do want to remind everybody our FFT DFS contest is live, so make sure you join that for $5. It'll be in the chat. It'll be in the chat, but also in the YouTube and podcast description. Mike, obviously, there's the key word that Meg just mentioned is information. Like information still coming in terms of who's starting, who isn't. But we do have like a good sense as of now in terms of what the situations are for each team and which teams are trying and which teams aren't. With that in mind, though, are you approaching week 18 a little differently?
Definitely approach it a little differently. Personally, I scale the volume back in a big way. I'll definitely have more playing on, say, the Saturday 2-game slate than I will the full game slate. But yeah, it's, there's always opportunity if you're willing to put the effort in at the right time and be timely with it and make a bunch of, I would recommend just making big stands. And just, it's the time to really lean into what you may believe, whether it's consensus or not. But yeah, there's a lot of variance. Unfortunately, it's a huge slate with all 13 games played this week. So for me, lower volume than normal by a considerable margin.
All right, we're going to race through this. Let's start with, it's interesting, this first game, the Saints and the Falcons. Meg, you'd think this game would be like, oh, we'll pass. These teams have nothing to play for. But it appears that both of these teams are motivated, in part because of their quarterbacks. I mean, I think the Saints are certainly playing for Tyler Shoup to win the Rookie of the Year race. Kirk Cousins is playing to remain relevant. It looks like all those starters are going to play as well, including Bijan, Drake London. It's a 44.5-point total. It is a 24 implied total for the Falcons, just around 2021 for the Saints. I like this game a lot. Do you?
I actually am pretty interested in this. Not only are we keeping up with just information, who may play full games, who's motivated, who's not. There also is, and you don't want to overlean into it, but there also is, contract incentives or milestones. Bijan Robinson, after a massive game last week, needs 255 scrimmage yards for a single season record. I know that's a long shot, but I do really like Bijan Robinson here. Like you said, Kirk Cousins, whether it's in Atlanta or somewhere else, playing to potentially have a starting job next year. I don't mind a little Kirk Cousins, Bijan Robinson stack. Tyler Shoup, like you said, playing for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Unfortunately, now going to be without Chris Olave. Very sad, dealing with a blood clot in his lungs. So I kind of really now like Juwan Johnson because now the target, he's been already soaking up a ton of targets, and now you take out a massive target earner with Chris Olave. So I do like Tyler Shoup. To Juwan Johnson, I do like Kirk Cousins to Bijan Robinson there, and I'm willing to kind of run back whether I pick one side or the other. So definitely like some pieces here.
Yeah, Mike, it's Bijan Robinson for me. I worry that Bijan might lose a few carries to Tyler Algier because, again, it is ultimately a meaningless game. Mm-hmm. But I also think this offense is going to go. And when you look at rushing props, Bijan is at the top of the list. So certainly the market thinks Bijan Robinson is going to get certainly close to his allotment of carries, his regular allotment of carries. This other side, I think we have to check on Mason Tipton. Part of the reason Saints receiver props aren't out yet, outside of Juwan Johnson, is that we don't know if Mason Tipton is going to play. Kevin Austin obviously probably is going to play, but if Mason Tipton isn't going to play, then it opens it up for Dante Pettis. Audric Estime is only 5K. I think there's a lot going on both of these sides. Do you like this game, Mike?
I do. Yeah, and you're not going to find a lot of props really in any game just yet. Maybe one or two players. They'll be slow to populate. There's no doubt about that. As far as this game, Bijan, first player in, again, my volume would be much lower this week, but he'll be in every lineup. I think that Bijan will have all the opportunity here. Atlanta is a team that just still wants to win. Like if you were to rank like all the teams that want to win, need to win, I would still put them near the top here. I think that they're going to go out there and compete and try to win. You've got guys playing for their jobs in terms of starting quarterback, coaching staff. all in on Bijan here. As far as New Orleans, definitely a big hit to Tyler Shoup not having Chris Olave out there in this game. I would probably be leaning away from Tyler Shoup just a little bit. Juwan Johnson, as Meg mentioned, will be a core lineup piece as well at this point. So in this game, that's really kind of where I'm focused to start. You can look at value pieces. There'll be some that may or may not be popular on the New Orleans side, but mostly Bijan, Juwan, and kind of move on.
Yeah, and I'll say this about Kevin Austin. I mean, when we looked at, obviously Chris Olave had a great game last week. He's not playing this week, like Meg said. But when we looked at who else stepped up, I mean, it was really Kevin Austin stepping up in that game before Juwan Johnson made a huge impact. And it looked like there was a lot of trust between Shoup and Kevin Austin. So that would be the guy that I would be focused on from a cheap option standpoint. Not so much Dante Pettis. And again, I'm not sure about Mason Tipton. But if Mason Tipton is out, I'm all aboard the Kevin Austin train. I'll be betting his props as well, as long as they're a reasonable number. Meg, anything to close out this game?
No, I think we covered this one pretty good.
Okay, you're in on Tyler Shoup, just to recap.
He's in my pool, but to Mike's point, I agree. Without Olave there, I downgrade him. So to me, I more have a little interest. Kirk Cousins could also tie the great John Elway if he has 3 passing touchdowns. Again, he'll probably be playing next season, so he could probably do that then as well. But little interest in Kirk Cousins. Mostly the interest is Bijan Robinson and Juwan Johnson.
I wonder if, because of the lack of Chris Olave, if maybe we see a little bit more rushing from Tyler Shoup, because I do think he can get it done with his arm anyway, but we know he can run the ball. Hopefully we don't get the Taysom Hill experience in any way, because last week he completely killed a drive. That should have been a Tyler Shoup drive that Taysom Hill came in and killed the drive. So hopefully we get that out of our system. Let's go to the Colts and the Texans. Mike, I don't think this is a game we're super interested in. JT 7,800, Woody Marks 5,800. We've got Nico, we've got Pittman, Tyler Warren, but it's a 38.5 point total. It is optimal conditions in Houston in the Dome, and Houston is a 24.5 point implied total. It isn't bad, but I just don't see myself getting anywhere in this game. How about you?
Yeah, probably not. If I were, it honestly would be Jonathan Taylor. The unfortunate part for him and any records or milestones that he may be chasing, it is a game the Texans want to win. They're highly motivated still to win this game. Jonathan Taylor has a shot at the rushing title still. He's trailing James Cook. James Cook and the Bills moderately interested in winning, but certainly far from a must win. And certainly more important to the Buffalo Bills would be keeping James Cook healthy for the playoff run. Steichen's been very vocal and aware about how cool it'd be if Jonathan Taylor's able to win the award still this year. The award, you have the milestone, lead the league in rushing. I think he's got a shot to do it. He's finally 7,800 and not 9,800. So I could talk myself into Jonathan Taylor lineups. Where I would really be interested, though, not a prop show, I know, over on Jonathan Taylor attempts at any number. I think he could have 30 rushing attempts in this game.
Interesting. All right, Meg, talk to me about, to me, it would be the Texans side or nothing. I mean, I do want to point out Riley Leonard's only 4,700, but Mike's right. Texans have something to play for. So I don't think there's going to be a ton of success on the Indy side. Are you interested in anyone in this game?
Well, I think Nico Collins in my pool, of course, like you said, Texans very, very motivated. So Nico Collins is in my player pool, but I agree with Mike. I actually was looking at ownership, and you're getting super contrarian for Jonathan Taylor, and his price has come down given obviously, kind of having the last 4 weeks being, kind of coming back to earth. Right. And so, this was a guy that we were talking about, potential MVP candidate, which I know, usually goes to quarterbacks who are offensive player of the year. And the last quarter of the year just did not go his or the Colts way. But like Mike says, he still has a chance at the rushing titles. It's important to him. It's important to Steichen. I find that interesting. Again, not an easy matchup against the Texans defense, but something I am considering at super contrarian ownership because I know they want to get a look at Riley Leonard or let him, play the quarterback position as well. But I still think, like Mike said, Jonathan Taylor will have a ton of attempts to try to do what he can to get that rushing title. So I do have a little interest in a contrarian Jonathan Taylor.
All right, let's move on. That, by the way, I mentioned the total on that game. I didn't mention the spread, 10-point spread in favor of the Texans. I think it's 10.5 actually. Mike, by the way, I understand it's a division game and all that, but Riley Leonard is the quarterback against this Texans defense. Do you have a lean on the side there? I mean, the easy play, the easy button play for me, and probably the play I should avoid is the Texans, but I do like laying the points there. Any thoughts there, Mike?
I don't mind it. I could see it be, if Taylor has any level of success, maybe landing within that number late, but yeah, it likely lean that way. I have not run the betting simulations for any of the NFL games yet, though.
Yeah, fair enough. I will point out that Jaden Higgins, who can flash and certainly flashed last game, is only 4,500. And also Claire, who's helping us produce this show, hit the like button for Claire if you would. Actually, really for us, but I'm just going to say Claire because it's a newer name that you could hit the like button for. She's put the list of incentives because somebody was asking in the chat, hey, what are the incentives this week? Which again, you don't want to blindly follow, but it's certainly relevant information. And Claire has put that link in the chat for everybody watching right now. And hopefully, Claire, you can put it in the YouTube comments as well. Maybe even in the podcast description. I don't know if we can do that as well, but so that the audio listeners and the people watching after the fact can click on that link from cbssports.com and they really just cover everything. So make sure you're in tune with that. Let's go to the Browns and the Bengals, 44.5 point total. Bengals favored by 7.5. Now, Mike, it does look like the Bengals are going to roll out their starters, which makes Jamar Chase at 8,500 really appealing, especially when you consider how much value is on this Week 18 slate. Are you in on Jamar Chase, and is there anybody else you're playing in this game?
Yes, in on Jamar Chase in some capacity. We'll talk about another game coming up where I'll be speculating just a little bit on how long some of the top tier wide receivers will be playing. But yeah, Jamar Chase definitely in the player pool. For many people, I could make the case first or second player in. First player in for me is clearly Bijan. Other spots on the Cincy side, if you want to play Higgins, I think you could sprinkle there a little bit. As far as anything else, I'd be more interested on the Cleveland side than the Cincy side.
Meg, any thoughts on the Cleveland side before we kick it right back to Mike? And are you playing Jamar Chase or any other Bengals?
I think I'm off the Cleveland side. Definitely Jamar Chase in the player pool. You could consider Higgins too. With these type of situations, how much run are they going to get in the second half? Is always the debate here with nothing to play for, but wanting to end the season on a high note. So for me, it's probably just going to be Jamar Chase in the player pool.
Mike, who are the Cleveland guys you're interested in?
It's a couple of value spots. Number one, Jerry Jeudy, 4,100. I think that he could have some opportunity in this one. We saw 7 targets last week against Pittsburgh. I just think he's got a little bit of upside against, again, I know that the Bengals are playing starters and they want to win. At this point in the season, it's a lot easier to play offense than defense. I think that there could be some opportunity for Cleveland. And then the other one for me will be Dylan Sampson. Sampson is someone that I've got some interest in. Why am I not able to find price point though? There we go.
Well,
5,200.
5,200. Yeah.
Yes. At running back. I just love his big play upside. He's definitely involved in the passing game. I think he has 5+ targets in the passing game here. We saw him get a lot of touches in the running game towards the end of that game against Pittsburgh, up to 11 carries there. But I think you could be 15 to 20 touches for Sampson here at the end of the year in this game.
Interesting. Yeah, certainly a value option at the running back position at 5,200. Let's move on, Meg, to the Titans and the Jags. I mean, this is a pretty big spread, 13.5 in favor of the Jaguars. And this is going to be a game that I think a lot of people will have interest in, especially on the Jacksonville side. And again, this is another team that has something to play for. Trevor Lawrence is 6,400. And then you've got the host of the Trevor Lawrence receivers. You go anywhere from Brian Thomas to Jacoby to Parker Washington. Brenton Strange, of course, is a tight end, and you could play him, I guess, if you want. Meg, I don't know how you turn away from Trevor Lawrence this week with a 30.5 point implied total for the Jags.
Right. Like you said, there's a few teams on this slate because obviously the Saturday slate and the Sunday night game has the massive playoff implications where both teams are are playing for it all essentially. So, but on this slate, it's the Jaguars, it's the Broncos, it's the Texans, it's the, probably the Patriots and Bears to a certain extent, maybe scoreboard watching, that we're really focusing on, that have true playoff motivations here. Lawrence and the Jaguars have to win to hold the NFC South. And so I really do like Trevor Lawrence stacks in this one, going right back to that. He's finished the season so strong. And I'm leaning mostly into Jacoby Myers, but you can certainly double stack him with any, like you said, of the host of other wide receiver or receiving options, any of the other receivers, or Brenton Strange. But Lawrence is a top stack priority to me. On the other side, Tony Pollard, again, you don't want to read into the incentives or, double count it or anything like that. But Tony Pollard is very, very cheap, has some incentives for, I believe, 65 yards or so to hit another tier incentives, and two touchdowns would get another incentive. So do find that interesting that he's been, has finished the season strong as well. So don't mind Tony Pollard on the other side at coming in at very low ownership.
Yeah, Mike Robb says, Jags scare me a bit because it seems like every year the AFC South champ or best team usually puts out a big dud in week 18. That's actually true. That's a very true statement. But with that said, I mean, it's such a great matchup, Mike, for Trevor Lawrence. I mean, the Titans' rush defense is good, but their pass defense is terrible. I mean, it's just like a dream matchup for Trevor Lawrence and company. I suppose if they're up too big, that like maybe some of these players could start to sit. But I mean, if they're up too big, that means they scored a ton of points, right? And I like the idea of Cam Ward playing a little bit better and maybe pushing Jacksonville just a little bit with guys like Chimere Dike or Io Manor or even Chig Okonkwo. Mike, are you in on Trevor? And if so, I mean, are you choosing a stacking partner? Because I think you can play him solo as well.
Yeah, it's always interesting when you get to this point, whether you want to fully stack it or not. Definitely playing Trevor. I think he'll be one of the top 3 quarterbacks here. As far as the game being competitive, I'd like to think the Titans could push a little bit. I think there's essentially no chance they win the game. It's definitely a highly motivated spot for Jacksonville, and I think they take care of business. I think a way to stack Jacksonville would potentially be kind of an onslaught with Trevor Lawrence, ETN, and one of the pass catchers maybe would be a potential way I'd play it, or even the defense. As far as guys on Tennessee side, I'm not going to play anything there, no sort of bringbacks of any kind, but definitely interested in Trevor. Jacoby Myers would be the first wide receiver choice for me. Could get talked into Strange a little bit. I think Strange's ownership will come down a touch just simply because Juwan Johnson's going to be the one that everyone jams in, and then it'll be whether or not we play 2 tight ends or not again. But yeah, definitely Jags roll in this one. They put up 30. The question is it all Trevor Lawrence or is it a defensive score in there or not? But yeah, they put up 30 here.
Yeah, Meg, any interest in, like, there's a lot of good options at quarterback. You're not thinking about somebody like Cam Ward and just 2 quarters of garbage time and, some cheap receivers, right?
No, not Cam Ward on that side. No.
Yeah. I'm going to do Trevor. I mean, he's not going to be I don't know how many lineups I'm going to do this week, probably around 8 to 10. And I think Trevor's going to be in a few of them, and I'll probably play him solo. And then depending on if I need salary relief, which I don't necessarily need it, but I'll probably go Parker Washington, Jacoby Myers, and just rotate those guys through. All right, I think we can move to the next game. But before we do that, because we've got a lot of games to go through, 13 games. Some will be less relevant than others, although this next game, Cowboys-Giants, will be relevant from a DFS standpoint. But before we get there, let's hear a quick message from our partners.
We need your sports news anywhere.
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
We're back on Fantasy Football Today, DFS. It's our Week 18 main slate preview. We go game by game, and the next game is the Cowboys and Giants. Before we get there, let me shout out a few people in the chat. We got Grey Goose Hayes, Gamblestein, Jay Rever 23, Pogo Picks is in here. Everybody hit the like button if you could. Mike Robb is in here as well. Cutie Pie Son, that's a fun screen name. I appreciate that. Scott, the Wisconsin Florida Pro, is in here as well. Hit the like button again if you could. Let's go to Cowboys Giants. Mike, I'll start with you. It looks like the Cowboys are rolling out their dudes, even though, again, they have nothing to play for. And that means Dak Prescott, George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb, Pickens 7,200 to CeeDee Lamb 7,300, all really in play. I don't know that we're going to see from a tight end standpoint. I want to point out that it looks like Schoonmaker is going to be the primary starter, not Jake Ferguson. He's 2,800. Mike, are you playing these Cowboys? And then we can talk about the Giants.
Yeah, playing the Cowboys. This is where I'll be speculating in a big way. We got the news that they're going to play the starters. The question is how long and how aggressively. I am in the camp that says the entire game and extremely aggressively, as long as they're not up 30 points. They want to win the game. It's the kind of game that the Dallas Cowboys go out and win, right? When nothing really matters, they could have potentially improved draft stock throughout the rest of the season. They don't. They go out and they win games. They get to 8 wins on the season. Jerry's in the booth clapping. Everything looks good. I think that there's just extra motivation here, though. I think that Dak Prescott will lead the league in passing. I think he's going to maintain and complete the lead over Matthew Stafford. And I think he cares about it. And it would be the first Dallas Cowboy to ever lead the league in passing like that, which is a big deal. And I think it'd be a big deal to Jerry and a big deal to Dak individually. So I think that this is a spot where Dak plays 4 quarters and Dak is out here slinging the football around. So I like this a lot. I'll be playing all sorts. Again, my volume is much lower than a normal slate, but I will be playing all sorts of Dallas Cowboys stacks this week.
And between Pickens and Lamb, do you have a preference? Or are they kind of interchangeable since they're the same price?
Slight lean to CeeDee Lamb on volume. Like them both, though. We'll be playing them both. And as long as Davis is out there in the backfield, we'll be playing Malik Davis as well. It is worth noting that he did not participate in practice yesterday.
Yeah, Meg, we could get a situation with, I don't know, Javonte and Malik. Maybe it's Jaden Blue in week 18 that they give some run to. But again, you want to be careful because if Dak's going to have a lot of dropbacks, you certainly want a guy that you can trust in pass protection as well. So that's something to consider. Are you in on Dak Prescott or any of these receivers? And then we can get to the Giants side.
You know, when I was digging deep about motivations yesterday and this morning, that came up about Dak Prescott going for the passing title. So when Mike kind of was leaning into that, there was something I was considering. So kind of felt good to align with Mike on that and say that I do want maybe at least one Dak Prescott lineup going for that passing title. You can run it back with like a Wan'Dale Robinson. You know, obviously this game in the first matchup was Russell Wilson and Dak, and it put up a gajillion points going into overtime. Now we have Jackson Dart on the other side. So I actually have this is like the one game where neither team has any, playoff incentive, but I could see points. The defenses on both sides can give up points. So I definitely have interest in the Dak stat for the passing title reason and agreeing with Mike there. And then if I did want to I'd like, going to Dart on the other side. Mm-hmm. And he's just, trying to put out some good tape and end the season strong from that side with Wan'Dale Robinson. So have a little interest on both sides here.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned how neither of these teams have anything to play for, but to your point, the total's 49.5. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, this is this isn't one of those situations where we have a 26.5 point implied total or close to 27 for the Cowboys, and it's like 18 for the Giants. It's 23 for the Giants. I mean, this is going to be what appears to be a high scoring back and forth game. You mentioned like Wan'Dale Robinson. Mike, are you willing to play any Giants, and are you in or out on Jackson Dart?
I'd be in on Jackson Dart. I'll prefer Dak, but still want both sides of this game. I'll stack it up in a big way. I want to know if Wan'Dale Robinson's going to play first. Right. He's, in my opinion, somewhat questionable, and it's the last week of the season, nothing to play for. It's probably not fun to continue to deal with the rib injury and get tackled and hit the way his style of play kind of lends itself to. So I think he's truly questionable and may sit this one. But if he doesn't, I would play him. The focus for me here would be, I guess, Tracy in the backfield. As much as I'd love to have a great answer here as we record this, which we are recording it later, week 18 is a different beast, and we don't necessarily know until official and actives 90 minutes before what my exposure may look like. But the long answer and short answer here, I want to play Dak. I want to play the Cowboys. Again, highly speculative. He could be out of this game after the first quarter. Like, that is truly a risk that you're taking. The thing I will mention on Dak, though, and why I'm so bullish on it is the fact that no Dallas Cowboy has ever led the league in passing, which is just a crazy stat to begin with, but it's never happened. And I think you combine all those factors and everything we've seen, I think they let him go get it. I think it's truly number one goal. And I think a guy like George Pickens would try to take advantage of it, considering he's looking to continue to put up stats to get paid as well.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. That the Pickens point really kind of resonates with me, and it is why that I'm definitely going to have Pickens. I love Lamb, but I'm going to have Pickens in some lineups as well. I do want to just mention, because you mentioned Wan'Dale Robinson, the rib injury, both Wan'Dale and Theo. Now we're recording this Friday. It's 11:27 Eastern time, but yesterday they didn't practice. Theo was listed as an illness, Wan'Dale with the rib. So something to keep in mind there, because if both of those guys are out, it's a completely different look for the Giants, in my opinion. And as far as Jake Ferguson, he didn't practice Thursday either, I don't believe, but I don't think he's been ruled out in any way quite yet. All right, I think we can move on. By the way, I'd be shocked if Javonte Williams plays in this game. I really would be. I think he didn't practice Thursday. I suppose he still could play, but with a neck and a shoulder injury, I don't know about that. I think you just roll out Malik Davis or Jaden Blue. So keep an eye on that. Let's go to the Packers and the Vikings, Meg. This one's interesting to me because I don't know if JJ McCarthy is going to play in this one. It does look like he's tracking to play. I don't know if Aaron Jones is going to play. It does look like it might be a Jordan Mason game. We got Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. On the Packers side, I don't think we're going to see any starters. They're locked into their seed. That leads me to believe that this 35.5 point total is something we want to avoid.
That's the exact way I feel. Low total. Packers are playing backups, it looks like, and just really don't feel good enough about the Vikings side to make any big stands there. So I'm pretty much out on this game.
Mike, are you out on this game as well? Let's assume Aaron Jones is out. Would you consider playing Jordan Mason if we know he's a full go? Would you consider playing him against the Packers backups?
Possibly. I'd have to see where my number would be on him, but I would guess that yes, he's probably in play. And again, this could be I have to look at Mason's. Yeah, I would guess that he'd be like top overall value. If he were clear workhorse, number one, only option. Bijan will be the first one in. So I'm not planning to get there, but again, week 18, like if we get that clear cut signal, it's very likely we end up playing him. As far as other things in this game, I think we still just continue to have to mention Justin Jefferson chasing 1,000 yards. Within reason here, he's got 53 to go to get to another 1,000-yard season. 100% important to him. Very, very much important to him. So I think he'll get there. I think he'll have the opportunity to get there. At 5,800, I think he's in the player pool.
Okay. Let's see. I think we can probably move on because I don't think this is going to be outside of what Mike just said. I don't think this is going to be a super important game, but you always want to keep an eye on the injury report. Because again, I think Jordan Mason would be interesting against backups if he's a full go at 5,200. Normally I would take a break before the 4 o'clock games because we usually have like 3 or 4 to go, but there's 7 4 o'clock games, all of which start at 4:25. So let's cover a few of them here. Miami Dolphins, New England Patriots. Meg, Drake May is certainly appealing here at 7,100. This Patriots team certainly has something to play for still. Obviously, no word on what's going on with the Stephon Diggs situation. Ramondre Stevenson's 5,600. Trevion Henderson, 6,100. I think that pricing is super interesting. Your guy, Hunter Henry, 4,500. And on the Miami side, we got to keep an eye on some of these players because some of them might not play, notably Jalen Waddle. We'll see about Devin Achane. Meg, are you playing Drake May?
I'm not playing Drake May, but I do have some interest in the other skill positions. Obviously, if for some reason Broncos would lose and Patriots win, they get the 1 seed. So, but if they're scoreboard watching and in the second half, it's a blowout in the Chargers game because the Chargers are playing backups against the Broncos, then I don't know that I feel confident that they're going to get a full 4 quarters. Both Diggs and Hunter Henry have some incentives to hit too. I don't know, it seems like with a player's coach and Drake May, I could see them trying to kind of go for that in what should be a fairly easy win here. So I'm not playing Drake May, but I do have both Diggs and Hunter Henry in my player pool. I know someone asked about the Patriots running back situation. I mean, I think you could have Stevenson or Henderson in your player pool as well. I don't currently. There's just other spots I like, but I wouldn't fault anybody for wanting a Patriots running back, especially after last week with Stevenson in the player pool.
Mike, I generally like Stevenson more than I like Trevion game to game, but I do think in a game like this, the ceiling for Trevion might be higher because of just his ability to get outside and break a run. I might be willing to take some stabs there at 6,100. Do you like anything in this game, Mike?
You know, it's tough. Let me pull up my numbers again here on this. This one is like, I want to think that there's a scenario where we could have just another massive first half from Drake May, right? Like I want to think there's that scenario where I can get there, especially on a week where other starters may get pulled, things like that. Like, can the Patriots score 24 in the first half via 3 Drake May touchdowns? One of them maybe running, and he gets there. I think it's possible. Like, I think it's possible. It's not going to be my preferred route. It's not going to be the first thing that I would do, but I think it's possible. Other than that, I'm not getting anywhere. I think the other likely scenario is just kind of a middling half. The usage is spread out. They get them out of the game as quickly as they've got the game in hand. I'm not going to do it, but I wouldn't be shocked if I'm looking at Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, and wondering why I didn't play a little Drake May if he does have that performance where it's just, again, 3 or 4 first half touchdowns and he gets there.
I mean, last week against the Jets, it was just, if you didn't have Drake May, you were a little frustrated. You were like, how can this guy be this efficient with the touchdowns in one half? Because you know he's not playing most of the second half, and you're like, all right, well, there's no way he's going to have 4 or 5 touchdowns, and there he is, just chucking it around. There was a comment here from Jay Rever. He says, I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, Revered. He says, Kyle Williams is a boom bust in this game. So I played some Kyle Williams, Meg, last week. It turns out, and he got a couple of targets, the one that could have been a big one, but turns out Efton Chisholm at 3,300 was a guy that was kind of getting more looks and got the touchdown over Kyle Williams. Any thought on a cheap receiver here, Meg, whether it's Kyle Williams or Kayshon Boutte or Chisholm?
I don't think I'll get there. I mean, I get the case for it that they kind of are like the Bills where they spread it around. I get the case for it. I don't know how important getting Diggs or Henry to their potential incentives are. But yeah, I don't see me going to the cheaper pieces from the Patriots side here.
I also want to point out, and we'll move on to the next game, Lions-Bears, that, Mike, you keep pointing out the Dak Prescott passing yards record. So just so everybody knows, Dak Prescott is leading right now with 4,482 passing yards. The only person in contention with him, as you mentioned, Mike, is Matthew Stafford, who has 4,448. So approximately, 30 and some odd yards away. So obviously Dak Prescott would potentially and we can talk about the Rams in a second and whether they're going to have something to play for. But Dak Prescott certainly potentially needs to keep the foot on the pedal to make sure he locks that up. Let's go to the Lions and the Bears. Another high total, 50.5. I mean, 24 implied point total for the Detroit Lions, almost 27 for the Bears. Meg, it looks like both of these teams, now the Bears have something to play for, but Detroit, Dan Campbell says he's going to roll out his players. We'll see if that actually happens. But a Caleb Williams stack makes a ton of sense, especially when you consider Luther Burden appears to be the next big thing. He's 5,300. Colston Loveland's 3,900. Caleb stack in play here?
I do think a Caleb stack's in play. They say they're playing their starters. They got beat badly beginning of the season by the Lions, and now can lock up the second seed. Now, of course, Eagles, we'll get to that, are going to be sitting starters against Washington. But, they said that they're playing starters. So if we believe that, then I do like a Caleb stack. And I like you can get it with the cheap pieces, like you mentioned, with Burden and Loveland. So I don't mind that at all.
Mike, I'm a little worried about the Lions side of this in terms of actually playing 4 quarters, but maybe that's just unfounded. I want to point out Jahmyr Gibbs is 8K, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 7,700, Jamison Williams, 6,700. Are you playing any Lions, and are you interested in the Bears stacks?
Yeah. So I could get to Jahmyr Gibbs. Like it's hard to know what's actually going to happen with that situation. If Dan Campbell says he's going to play the guys, it wouldn't shock me to see him, go out and kind of put up a performance. Getting a guy like Bijan and Gibbs in the same lineup could do a lot on a week where you could have a ton of guys that end up scoring 6, 7, 10 points, right? When those two guys have upside of 30 plus. So I have some interest in Gibbs. I have some interest in Colston Loveland on the other side. Again, the Bears, they can lock up the 2 seed with a win. They cannot fall further than 3. It's, what do they want? Who do they want to potentially play? Do they want to play the Packers? Do they want to play one of those NFC West teams? I think you take at the words of the coach as what they say, like that. I think they're both going to play. I think both teams want to win this game. I think if you're looking for one-off options, I think it's fine to lean into the truly high ceilings in this game.
Mike Robb saying Lions are the one team I feel we shouldn't be scared would sit because of the Dan Campbell factor, essentially, which is absolutely true. I mean, the fact that they're playing the Lions, and there's 2 good things about wanting to play the Bears here. First of all, if the Lions are going to roll out their starters, that's great. Second of all, I mean, this secondary for the Lions has just been bad the whole defense has just been bad for quite some time. But I could see a situation where if the Bears get pushed, like Caleb Williams could throw for 4 touchdowns. And obviously they've got a 27-point implied total. Some of that could come through the rushing game, but these are some cheap pieces. And you could get a Caleb Williams double stack in there if you want and still play the likes of Jamar Chase and some of these, and Bijan Robinson, some of these high-end options that we're talking about. So yeah, I would say that Caleb for me is a top 3 stack. Then Trevor and Tyler Shoup are going to be probably my only 3 quarterbacks that I'm going to play this week. All right. I think we can move. Go ahead, Meg.
Yeah, looking at motivations, again, researching motivations. Obviously, the Bears want to win and lock the 2 seed. That's the most important thing. But if Caleb Williams throws for 270 yards, he'd be the first Bears quarterback to throw for 4,000 yards. Have to believe that might mean something too. Maybe they'll let him air it out a little bit more. So it's kind of good to just talk through this because again, this slate is literally drinking water from a fire hose and right up till Sunday lock. But you do want to kind of think about all these different things and kind of value the level of importance. Now again, Bears winning is the most important thing, but him getting a 4,000 passing yard season probably means something. So the more we talk about, the more I become interested in the Caleb stack.
Yeah, Claire, our esteemed producer, also, and she's a Bears fan too, I believe. She's pointing out that to get the Bears single season record, he only needs 180 yards. So these are things you're not necessarily going in and changing your game plan for, but that you're also aware of. And so I do think that contributes to the idea that maybe, Caleb will, in the back of his mind, be trying to tackle maybe both of those. But 270 is certainly lofty. I think his passing yards prop is in that 220 to 230 range. It's outdoors, but it doesn't look like it's going to be cold. It doesn't look like there's going to be any precipitation or major wind issues. So that's worthy of pointing out there. All right, let's move on to the Chargers and the Broncos. Mike, I don't think we have a ton to talk about in this one. RJ Harvey at 6,800 is interesting. Obviously, Denver needs to win. The reason I say we don't have a ton to talk about is Chargers are sitting there, guys. So the Chargers aren't really going to put up much of a fight. Bo Nix is 6,200. Cortland Sutton, 5,900. To me, this is RJ Harvey and get out, and I'm not even really that interested in RJ Harvey. How about you, Mike?
Yeah, not super interested in anything other than maybe the Broncos defense I would play. I could see them, obviously, they have to win. They want to win. They'll give every effort there, and they'll have a much easier time doing it defensively against this version of the Chargers. So for me, it would be Broncos defense would be the first and probably only thing I get to.
Meg, when I was making lineups before this show, because I had so much money left over because I was playing some value options, which may or may not hit, I ended up paying up for defenses. We talk about Denver. I looked at Jacksonville's defense to pay up there if I wasn't playing like the Trevor stacks. The Houston Texans defense was something I was considering. So I do want to point out that this might be a good week to do the different thing and pay up for the defense as opposed to taking the cheap defense. Not in all your lineups, but it's certainly something to consider on a week like this. Meg, do you like anything in this game?
Yes, just like you said, my first thing in was Broncos defense with RJ Harvey. So in my shell lineup, I have RJ Harvey and Broncos defense. I think that's probably going to be it. With the Chargers playing the backups, though, the Broncos are one of the teams that are trying to lock up the 1 seed here. So if you wanted to do like a Bo Nix to Cortland Sutton stack, I don't mind that. I definitely am considering it, but I think I'll probably get to some of the other quarterbacks we mentioned first. But yeah, I like the Harvey Broncos defense a lot.
Yeah, we've got the Broncos favored by anywhere between 12 and 13 points here. 37.5 point total. Just not a lot of meat on the bone. I'm not playing Trey Lance at 4,500. That's a no for me. All right, I think we can move on to Commanders Eagles. I don't know. Maybe we should take another quick break before we hit the rest of the 4:00 games. We'll be back right after this message from our partners.
This isn't just combat. It's cinema.
Are you not entertained?
The new home of UFC, Paramount Plus.
You might hear me talking a little bit faster. We're trying to get through this within an hour, and that's because some of us have other obligations on other CBS sports platforms. So let's go to Commanders, Eagles. Speaking of backup quarterbacks, Tanner McKee is pretty good. He's only 4,500, and he gets a Washington defense that's pretty bad. I'll point out Josh Johnson's 4,400. As far as the options for Tanner McKee, Meg, it's not great. It looks like, AJ and Devontae might be sitting. So, all backups here, looking at Jahan Dotson, Darius Cooper. These guys are in the 3K range. Grant Calcaterra. I'm not really interested in this game. 21.5 point total, implied total for the Eagles is not awful. And Tanner McKee at 4,500, not awful. I'm just not going to get there. And on the Washington side, it's also a no for me. I would consider Deebo Samuel if I know he's a full go at 5K. Outside of that, it's a no, just in general. How about you, Meg?
Same. It's pretty much a no for me. I get the, price savings with McKee, but like you said, with the backups, not really interested. Was thinking about Tank Bigsby. It's not like you're getting some massive discount on Bigsby either. So pretty much out on this game.
Yeah, Mike, I mean, if you want, it's just, I question the upside. We've talked about a lot of other quarterbacks that are 1,000 to 1,400 more that have just such a higher ceiling, in my opinion, than some of these low end 4K quarterback options. In or out on this game are these quarterbacks?
I'm going to be out on it. Look, we've seen McKee in the past have a little success. I think that all those things can be true. I think there's just enough that I'm taking a stand on that I can play for, right? So when I want to play an expensive guy like Bijan, I want to play some of the Dallas stuff, some of the Giants stuff there. And then if you want to dip into that Chicago-Detroit game, I think there's kind of enough games here that I don't feel the need to get cute speculating on what the Eagles, really will look like. We know what they'll look like in terms of none of the starters and skill position players are playing, but how aggressive are they going to be? Are they just get in, get out? Are they still evaluating talent in any way, shape, or form? I don't know, so I'm going to be out.
Jay Revers says he likes, because you referenced Bigsby, likes Ray Davis over Tank Bigsby. We're going to get to him in a second. And Greg Gousset says he likes Calcaterra. Yeah, if you want to take a shot at a tight end at 2,600, I kind of get that, but there's a lot of cheap tight ends that you can play here. A little bit more expensive than 2,600, but that to me have a lot higher upside. Let's move on to the Chiefs and the Raiders. Another game that I don't know that we need to spend a ton of time on. Mike, this is your team, 36.5 point total. I mean, the quarterback situation, Oladokin and Kenny Pickett. I can mention Trey Tucker. I can mention Ashton Genty at 6,400. He's going to play a full allotment. Not so sure. There's no Travis Kelce's 4,700. Michael Mayer, who I think is a little interesting, is 3,500. But Mike, this is a no for me as well.
Yeah, another pretty strong no. Neither team wants to win this game. The Raiders obviously definitely don't. Kansas City doesn't either. Yeah, I think that this game could have 15 to 20 total points scored in the game. Maybe Kansas City defense, if you want to do that, just because of how bad the Raiders want to not put up points and win. The issue is when you're looking for a defense in DFS, again, I should say this quickly, but are you talking about trying to cash a cash game or a minimum cash? Or are you trying to win a tournament? If you're trying to win a tournament, you want your defenses playing where you've got high passing volume.
Yeah.
You want the opportunity to score defensive touchdowns. We all think about defenses and yes, it'd be awesome to limit the other opponent to 3 to 10 points, have 2 sacks and score 10 points. That's great. That'll win you a cash game. If you're trying to win a tournament, you need passing volume where you have upside of multiple defensive scores. And that's just not going to happen in this game.
Totally agree. Meg, any thoughts on this game?
No, this is easy. Totally out on this one.
Let's go to Jets Bills then. We mentioned Ray Davis, or the chat mentioned Ray Davis. He's 4,900. Obviously the Bills are playing some backups here. I'm not sure that the Bills have committed to not playing James Cook. You all can correct me if I'm wrong here, if we know that for a fact. On the other side, it's the Jets. Breece Hall, 6,200. I don't think anybody's really interested in playing anybody beyond him. Meg, I'll start with you. Are you interested in like the Ray Davis side of things? I can't imagine you're playing a pass catcher on either side.
No, definitely not playing a pass catcher. Like you said, I don't think we've got an official word. Josh Allen is nursing an injury, so it doesn't seem like he's going to play. I don't even know if I'll get to Ray Davis in this one. I get the case for it at the 4,700 price tag, but I think I'm pretty much out on this game too.
I'm sorry, is Cook not playing because he's injured, or are they resting him?
Cook's going to play potentially. They haven't committed to everything one way or another yet. They're talked about the rushing title. He's got like 130, 140 yard lead. Right. They're locked into a wild card spot, obviously. Can potentially do seeding, but reading some of the coach speak on it, it's also the last game, right? That's the thing that I wanted to talk about and confirm, because it's important to the team, right? And the organization as a whole. This is the final game in the stadium because they're locked into the wild card. They won't get a playoff game there. Yeah. So it's important to them. It's important to the fans, all the things like they should handle it. But do you rest? Do you go out? Like it's a weird situation, one that I won't feel comfortable with until 90 minutes before when we have a little more information. But just noting there's a lot at play in terms of he's banged up a little bit. They want to rest and be healthy going into the playoff. And it's also the final game in that stadium, which is, if you know anything about Buffalo Bills and the fans, it means a lot to them.
Yeah, I feel like Josh Allen's going to play like a quarter and a half, and then they'll call a timeout, and then they'll do some sort of ceremonial, like little thing, gesture to the fans. And McDermott just came out and said Josh Allen is good to go in week 18, but that doesn't mean he's good to go to play 4 quarters. So you got to kind of read into that coach speak. I do want to mention Jalen Waddle officially listed as questionable. Not that we talked about him a lot. Darren Waller placed on IR. Achane won't practice again Friday. So we didn't talk about Achane, but probably not a good guy to consider. Dalton Kincaid is questionable for week 18. No word on James Cook. But again, I don't think it's an injury thing with James Cook, as somebody mentioned in the chat. All right, one more game, and then we're going to start. After that game, we're going to do top 3 at each position, because I know you have to get out of here before Meg and I. Let's go to Arizona and Los Angeles. I'm very intrigued by this game, but it's not so much, Mike, on the Stafford side, because there's a situation where, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know, maybe you all don't know, but if Seattle beats San Francisco, I'm pretty sure the Rams don't have much to play for. But if San Francisco beats Seattle, again, that game's Saturday, then we could see the Rams maybe win and move up a spot. So if they don't have anything to play for, I don't know why we're even considering any Rams options. I might have gotten that wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's right. Mike, how do you feel about this game?
I think it's backwards. I think you need if the Niners lose and the Rams win, I believe that the Rams can move up in seeding.
Right.
If the Niners, yes. But yeah, we'll know on Saturday. That's the thing here. We won't, we're not, I'm not committing to anything in this game until we see the result Saturday. But after Saturday, the spot will be very clear for the Rams. And I personally think they'll be in the spot where they can't change their seating. McVay is very quick to rest in that point. They've been beat up. They still got Devontae on the shelf. Which is why I like Dak also. I think Dak goes out there and puts up a big number, puts up the big lead. If Dak goes out there and throws for 300 yards in this game with a 40-yard lead coming in and nothing to play for, if it was a situation where he needed 200 yards, they may let him go get it, right? I think that Dak opens up the lead just enough and wraps it up, and we don't have any Rams playing for anything in this game is what I think is going to happen.
And Dak plays at 1:00, which I think is interesting because he technically won't know if Stafford's going to be like, unless they're like, he's not playing, he won't know.
Right.
And they're not going to say that what he needs, which will incentivize him to just play a normal game. It's the Jacoby Brissett side that I kind of like here at 5,600, because these guys, and especially because Marvin Harrison's probably not playing in this game. I don't know if he's been officially declared out, but I'm pretty sure he's not playing. Michael Wilson, 6,600, Trey McBride, 7,500. I can find the money. If the Rams are sitting guys, I don't think the Arizona Cardinals are going to like take the game off because it doesn't matter to them. I think they're still going to play like they've been playing the last 6 weeks. Any thoughts on Jacoby Brissett stacks?
Yeah, similar to Kirk Cousins. I mean, he's playing for a potential starting gig next year as well. So I don't mind that. I don't know that I'm going to get there. There's just a few other quarterbacks I like more, but I totally get the Arizona stack. And I'm in lockstep with you guys that I feel like come Sunday, we're going to find out that the Rams aren't playing for much, even though to this point, McVay says, they're going for it and playing and that kind of stuff. We need to see Sunday. And so I likely probably won't have a lot from this game, but I totally get your case, Sia.
Yeah, and even if I'm not stacking it, I will have one-offs of Michael Wilson and Trey McBride. And I want to mention, if you want to know like why it even matters that they would move up to the 5 seed, again, that would be in the circumstance that Seattle beats the 49ers and the Rams win. It's because they're going to get, in that case, they would get the NFC South winner. As opposed to going on the road to Chicago or Philly, they'd go on the road to Tampa or Carolina. And those are two completely different outcomes, most likely for those teams in terms of at least a possibility of losing there. All right, before we lose Mike, let's go over to your top 3 at each position. We'll do it kind of in reverse order because in case you have to leave, we'll do our cheat sheets after. All right, we've already got it here. So take us through QB, running back, wide receiver, tight end.
Yeah, as we talked about at length, dabbling in and out through the show, Dak Prescott for me going to be number 1. Again, speculation. I just think that Jerry and the organization would love to have a passing leader for the first time be a Dallas Cowboy. We know Dak would like it. He's got 2 of the best wide receivers in the league. Awful Giants defense. Next, Trevor Lawrence, Jags, highly motivated. We've seen Trevor get there with his legs. I think they put up 30-plus points, and he gets there in a big way. Jackson Dart, the other side of Dak. Look, Jackson Dart is able to run. I don't know what his weapons look like yet. We'll know more on Sunday. I would not play Jackson Dart if both Theo and Wandale are out.
Right. So let's go to top 3 running backs.
Bijan Robinson, Travis Etienne, and Dylan Sampson. I wanted to list Jahmyr Gibbs here. I just can't give you Bijan, Gibbs, CD, like all the expensive guys, even though I will be mixing them all in together where I can. Bijan, clear-cut number 1 on the slate here. I think he has all the volume. Etienne, part of the Jaguars stack. I think he ultimately lands in the end zone as the Jags kind of win in a big way, put up 30-plus. Sampson's a guy I'm speculating. I think he could have 15 to 20 touches against a Cincinnati Bengals team that's definitely going to score points offensively. I think the defense could struggle a little bit and allow some of the big upside that Sampson has.
Top 3 wide receivers.
CeeDee Lamb, Jacoby Myers, George Pickens. Very clear cut here. Dallas and Jacksonville. That's where the focus will be. Jacoby Myers is that option for Trevor Lawrence, but I like CD and I like Pickens quite a bit in this one.
And I love all 3 of your tight ends here: Juwan Johnson, Colston Loveland, and Trey McBride.
Yes, Juwan Johnson essentially becomes Trey McBride this week. When you look at the options for the Saints, we know that Shuck's going to go out there and still throw. I think he's ultimately going to come up short winning that award, not having number 1 receiver Chris Olave, but Johnson's going to have double-digit targets. Colston Loveland, we'll see how banged up the Bears really are heading into this game and how much they push. I like him, though. I think he has a great opportunity. And then Trey McBride, he's going to get peppered with targets. There's a scenario where the Rams aren't playing for much in this game, and even if they are, we know that Arizona is going to be competitive and push. There's a few little milestones left to get him, but I also think they want him to just pad those stats. I know he already broke the tight end record. Make that record so unobtainable for anyone else, I think is a source of motivation here.
Absolutely. And again, you have to understand we are speculating a bit in terms of the motivations and things of that nature. But again, if we're right about the speculation, we're potentially hitting ceiling outcomes. Mike, I know you got to go, but real quick, on the Saturday slate, we've got the 2 games. Is it going to be Brock Purdy tournament stacks for you? Do you think you're going to go a different direction? There is going to be some rain in that game, but the total's still higher than the other game.
Yeah, I'll play some Brock Purdy for sure. And Niners, I mean, Christian McCaffrey, anywhere you can get him, you're definitely playing him. Yeah, I haven't run through everything there yet. I'll definitely have a lot of data up on Sportsline for that. If you guys are Sportsline members, you'll be able to find that ahead of that game. Again, week 18, be paying attention 90 minutes before kickoff with some official inactives.
Absolutely love that. And I love the sports line shout out. All right, Mike, we know you've got to be over on CBS Sports HQ. So have fun doing that. We had fun doing this show with you today, but don't worry, everybody. We'll be back in the following weeks. We go through the playoffs with this whole FFT DFS thing. So Mike, we'll let you go while Meg and I do our top 3 at each position. Thanks again. Meg, I'll tell you before we get to our top 3 at each position, I've been looking at props for these Saturday games, and I already have a prop. I have Baker Mayfield under 33.5 pass attempts against Carolina, and I went into the whole analysis over on Sportsline and on the early edge. But I'm worried about the rain a little bit in the San Fran game, which is why we kind of have to wait until close to kickoff. That's 8:00 tomorrow night. But I do like Brock Purdy stacks. I like potentially mixing in a Zach Charbonnet. I'm just throwing this out there for people who are like thinking about Saturday. Bucky Irving, I kind of like. I think he's been terrible, but I think he's going to get a lot of work. And if we're playing from a lead or a neutral game script, I think Bucky Irving is going to be big in that game. Those are just some of the names I'm considering. Zach Charbonnet, Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, any of the receivers, but namely Ricky Pearsall for me and George Kittle. Those are going to be some of the names I'm considering, but a heavy lean to that second game. Any thoughts before we get to our top 3?
Yeah, I agree with most. I actually am considering leaning into the Seattle passing game a little bit more in this one, just because of the matchup, right? Listen, Brock Purdy's playing out of his mind. I think this is going to be a fun game to watch no matter what, but Darnold does have the easier matchup. So I'm kind of interested in leaning into like maybe a Darnold JSN Barner stack with a CMC bring back, maybe CMC and one of the receiving options bring back. So I'm kind of leaning into that. Again, pay attention to the weather, of course, as well. But, I wouldn't be surprised doing a Purdy stack. And you certainly consider stacks in the first game as well. I'm struggling with that because, I was a Baker girl all season, but he's really fallen off, as the Bucs have too, here to the end of the season. And, Bryce Young either seems to be put up a total dud or like a total smash. So I am really still trying to figure that first game out. But the one thing that stood out to me is I am considering some Darnold stacks.
You know what could be really interesting? No, I was going to say a Bryce Young stack at 4,800. He's so cheap that I think that's at least interesting, because I do think against Tampa, the passing game is probably the way to go. But I think you're right. It's either Darnold or Purdy. I mean, the San Francisco defense is really quite bad. So I feel like Seattle's going to be able to do whatever they want. And it's going to be up to Purdy to basically maximize every single offensive possession, which again caters to maybe a Purdy stack and maybe taking a lot of position players on Seattle, both in the running game. Because I think Kenneth Walker's in play too, of course. I mentioned Zach, but a lot going on there. All right, let's go to our cheat sheets. We already did the top 3 at each position. Meg, let's hear your favorite stack: chalk, buy, and fade, contrarian, and value play.
Sure. So we talked about at length, but Trevor Lawrence stack. Pick your favorite stacking partner. I'm going to mainly stack with Jacoby Myers, but definitely willing to double stack it. Chalk by Bijan Robinson. Obviously, just looks amazing, has looked amazing all season, and thinks he's going to finish the season strong. I mean, he has an outlier to get, the most all-purpose yards. He would need 255. So that's a pretty big outlier, but absolutely love Bijan Robinson this week. He's my chalk buy. Chalk fade, I know we talked about, I do believe the Lions are going to play any starters that are healthy and Gibbs will play, but, Bears are playing for a ton. And so I'm probably going to fade Gibbs if he's coming in at the ownership he's looking to come in at, which looks fairly high. Contrarian play, Tony Pollard does have some incentives here. I know going up against, of course, in that Jaguars game, I'm considering some Lawrence, Jacoby Myers, or Lawrence stacks with a Tony Pollard run back. He's finished the season pretty strong, has some incentives here. I believe over 65 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns could certainly add to his salary for the 2025 season. So, and then Juwan Johnson is my value play. I always love cheap tight ends. He's not uber cheap, but he's already been getting a ton of targets, and now without Chris Olave, I'm sure he's going to be chalky, but he's another chalk buy that I'm very interested in, Juwan Johnson, at that price.
I'm very interested in Jawan and also a lot of these chat comments. Mike Robb says Meg's heart play is Kirk Cousins, LOL, which, yeah, that would be a Meg heart play for sure. Richie Small says Happy New Year. Jeff Rev confirming Kittle, good to go. Michael Collier says, go Canes, Happy New Year. Congratulations to all Canes fans. I think Trinidad Chambliss is going to have something to say about that game, but I think a lot of people like the Canes to win that one. Jeff Rev, Dowdle or Irving? So this would be a Saturday DFS question. Meg, I would go, Dowdle's been pretty bad lately, but that doesn't mean he's going to be bad in this particular matchup. But I'd still go with Irving because even though Irving's been equally as bad, I just feel like he's going to get some major volume. And I think the path to victory is running the ball because Baker's been pretty bad. And this pass defense is actually decent for Carolina relative to the run. Do you have a take here, Dowdle or Irving on Saturday?
That one I am honestly, I think that's a great question. First of all, and I'm struggling with it because like you said, both have kind of struggled of late, but Rachaad White in this matchup a few weeks ago had a much better yards per carry. Now, I don't know. So that's one like contrarian angle I was toying with. But I don't know how confident I feel about that contrarian angle. So I'm going to say Dowdle and be a little contrarian here, but I can't say it with a ton of confidence. I'll be honest there. And Mike Robb, a very loyal chat member, is definitely right on the heart play is Kirk Cousins.
Right. And don't forget on a 2-game slate, getting to the lesser owned, less popular guy, which might be Dowdle in this case, although I don't think either of them are going to be like massively popular relative to a regular 2-game slate. Dowdle might be the bet. Honestly, Chuba Hubbard might be the option, especially if you think, and I know both of them can catch passes, but to me, Chuba Hubbard, at least lately, has looked a little bit more dynamic than Rico Dowdle. I kind of like him in the open field as a pass catcher if he's able to play that role. So I think if you wanted to get a little different, I think getting Hubbard might be a play there. SB Murphy 1 says, listen to this podcast every week. You guys are my go-to for DFS. First time listening live. Thanks for all the help this year. Happy New Year. Now, you wrote that comment 8 minutes ago. We appreciate it. If you're still with us, go to Spotify or Apple and review the podcast for us. Give us 5 stars and mention why you like this show. Not a lot of people take the time to do that because it's just an extra thing that they have to do. But I promise you, it takes like 10 to 15 seconds to hit 5 stars and just write a few words about the show. So we appreciate you being in here regardless. But if you can review the podcast as well, that would be super helpful. Cash winners. Can we put up the top 3 at each position for Mike, Claire? Because I do want to point out some of the better cash game options. And I usually like pulling from Mike's top 3. I think Trevor Lawrence, that's Meg's cheat sheet. Let's bring up, there we go. Yeah. So Meg, I think of these 3 at QB, I think Trevor's kind of the obvious one with a 30.5 point implied total and the knowledge that they really truly have something to play for. And so they're not going to pull Trevor until they have like a pretty big lead. He can get it done with his feet, which we love for cash. Certainly can get it done with his arm. Would you agree that that's a great cash game option?
Yes, absolutely agree on that.
Okay. I mean, there's other QBs we could probably mention that we talked about in the show, but I think Trevor might be the best option there. Running back, Bijan, I guess the workload could be down, but I think he's a great cash option. He's very affordable because of all the other affordable things on this slate. I'm not big in cash on ETN and Sampson personally. I think those are more tournament options. That's what these top 3 are more for. But I do think Bijan's an easy. Can you think of another running back that we covered that would be good in cash, Meg?
That's what I was trying to look at on my list. And I think that's going to be a big pay attention to news up till lock, because, maybe if we get that, like we're speculating Javonte Williams is out, Malik Davis is in, maybe that would be a cash game option. Maybe Harvey in just a motivated game.
Harvey makes sense because at least it's a motivated game.
Yes.
He is a little expensive, but I think honestly, even, if we get news that Audric Estime is going to get a full load, I know he's not a great running back, but he's cheap, and that could be a decent option as well. You could look at maybe DeAndre Swift. There's not a lot of great running backs that we can really lean on, but the news will come in that regard. And so just keep an eye on that. Between the receivers, CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, is it CeeDee Lamb for cash, right, Meg?
Yeah, I would say Lamb for cash. Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to think of other ones that we covered throughout the show. Puka, we don't really know. Jamar Chase, I think you can afford him for cash if you wanted a cheap option for cash. With Olave out, maybe Kevin Austin, but that's probably not a good cash game. Maybe Michael Wilson, Jacoby Myers, tight ends.
Myers for cash makes sense.
Yeah. tight end, Juwan Johnson, Colston Loveland. I think both of those. You could even potentially play 2 tight ends, even in your cash lineup, but probably not. Juwan Johnson would be the cash game guy, right, Meg?
Definitely.
All right. So hopefully that helps. Greg Goose Hayes says, Meg, you like that.
Definitely. Yeah. I love a good Kirk Cousins line.
Meg, let's close the show with a prediction.
Sure.
I put out on the early edge Niners to win the NFC West plus 215 on the day before Christmas. I'm very worried about that play now because I thought like this defense didn't just get beat up by the Bears. They got beat up by Phillip Rivers and the Colts. They're at home, and I understand the Sam Darnold sees ghosts thing, but like if you can't get a pass rush because you don't have Mikael Williams, who nobody talks about, Bosa, among others, and of course Fred Warner at the linebacker position, I don't know how many ghosts Sam Darnold's going to see here. What's your take on this? I hope the Niners win. My money's on the Niners, but because of that bet from a couple of weeks ago, but man, I'm scared.
Yeah, speaking of hard play is written for the Niners. I'm so impressed with Kyle Shanahan, what he's done with all the adversity this season.
Yep.
But yeah, it is tough in this one. So I am leaning Seahawks, but I think it'll be a good battle of kind of strength versus strength, amazing offense versus amazing defense, and then not as great defense. So yeah, I'm leaning Seahawks, but again, not confidently, not official play for sure.
Yeah, fair enough there. Kirk Shore says, thanks, Sia, Meg, and M squared. If you all don't mind, in the YouTube comments, especially if you're listening to the podcast, if you're listening now or after the fact, give us the final score. Obviously, make sure you note who the winner is. Give us the final score in that Niners Seahawks game. I'd be very interested to see if anybody gets this right. Give us the who wins and the final score. So whatever, like let me make a prediction. I'm going to go with my heart here and where my money is, Meg, even though I kind of don't believe it all that much. Let's go 30-27, 30-26. I'm going to be weird with it. It's raining. Maybe some weird stuff will happen. 30-26 49ers is my call. Meg, what's your final score here?
Ooh, I'm going to be a little more boring, a little more lower scoring here. I'm going to go 24-20 Seahawks.
Seattle. Okay. Kirk Shore says 27-24 49ers win. Greg Goose says Hawks 34-28. I wonder what Claire thinks. Claire, maybe you could put it in the chat before we close the show. Put it in the YouTube comments, though, folks. Put your final score in the YouTube comments and make sure you join the FFT DFS contest. We'll be with you next week, but I believe we'll be back on our normal time, Thursday at 11 o'clock as opposed to Friday. That was just a 2-week thing because of the holidays and moving stuff around. But Thursday at 11 o'clock, we'll be live on the Fantasy Football Today YouTube channel. Join the contest, review the podcast, and put your winner in the YouTube comments. Meg, any closing words here?
No, again, information slate, stay locked in till Sunday lock for sure. And have fun with this last slate, and we'll be right back for playoffs next week.
I forgot to do my cheat sheet. OSIDD says
we need that.
Yeah, but what about Sia's cheat sheet? Oh yeah, let me do that real quick. Sorry about that. My stack: Tyler Shoup, Juwan Johnson. Again, there's other stacks I really like. We talked about the Dak stack, Trevor stacks or Trevor solo. I really like, and Caleb Williams. I really like a Caleb Williams, maybe double stack with Luther Burden and Colston Loveland. Poor DJ Moore. I guess he could bounce back. You guys realize, guys, I say as ladies and gentlemen, there were 936 total yards in that game, that primetime game that we saw with the Bears. Meg, do you want to guess how many yards DJ Moore had of that 936?
I remember it was very low because I had a live bet that just missed that leg of DJ Moore.
7.
I thought it was under 10.
yards.
I thought it was under 10. Yes.
He's like allegedly the number one receiver, certainly getting paid like it. I don't know that it's his fault, but wow, he's not even getting looked at. And he was, for the record, wide open on the final play. He was across the field, kind of hard to see, but I'm telling you, he was wide open. But apparently Caleb Williams doesn't look his way. Anyway, Tyler Shoup to Juwan Johnson. But again, there's so many other stacks we like. Chalk buy is going to be CeeDee Lamb, chalk fade, Puka Nacua. Now that's largely kind of dependent on the situation with San Francisco and Seattle that we addressed earlier in the show. I still don't know that I'm going to get to a 9K Puka Nacua, though, regardless. Contrarian play, I struggled with this one. I mean, I had Michael Wilson in there, but he's not really contrarian at all. Parker Washington, not super contrarian either, but a little bit more contrarian than the Jacoby Myers of the world that'll be in those stacks. So I'll go with Parker Washington. My value is going to be Kevin Austin on the Chris Olave news. I think he's going to be one of the go-to guys for Tyler Shoup, who, by the way, is still going for the Rookie of the Year. So I like these Tyler Shoup stacks. maybe double stacks with the Bijan Robinson run back, because I think the Atlanta Falcons are going to go pretty hard as well. Claire says 30-26 Niners. Sia's prediction, 24-20 Seahawks. Meg's prediction. Okay. But did you give her? Oh, she says 26-21 Seahawks. My bad. Claire says 26-21 Seahawks. I say 30-26 Niners. And Meg, you say 24-20 Seahawks. I hope you're both wrong. I really hope you're both wrong. All right. We can finally get out of here. That was a 13-game slate, some cash game options that we discussed at the end, our cheat sheets, Mike's top 3 at each position. We'll see you next Thursday at 11 o'clock. On behalf of Claire, Meg, Mike, myself, and everybody in the chat. Really appreciate everybody. Thanks for being in here. See you next week at 11 o'clock on Fantasy Football Today, DFS.